we bow down and confess you are Lord in this place. We bow down and confess you are Lord in this place. You are all I need. It's your face I see in the presence of your light. We bow down, we bow down. You are all I need. It's your face I see in the presence of your light. We bow down, we bow down. We bow down.
Good morning. Welcome to Half Hour with Jesus. It's really good to be able to meet with you all again, and I hope that you're keeping well and managing to keep yourselves occupied. I hope that you've managed to get yourself a coffee or a brew. I've got my mug with me here, my favourite mug. So I'm set up and ready to go. So welcome to our time together this morning. As I look out from where I'm sitting, I can look out through my window, and directly in front of me is the square mass of the Heron Mill, the cotton mill. It's no longer in use as a cotton mill, but it has been refurbished and it's been reused. And I think there's something about an elegance and functionality about the architecture that I think is really attractive. As I look out, though, I can see over the top of the Heron Mill. And where I'm sitting here, I can see the skyline of Manchester. All those grey and stark towers that have grown up in recent years. To me, they almost look like an outline, like they've been cut out of a strip of card or something, dark and quite stark. And if you look closely, you can see that amongst them all the spindly cranes that bristle there as new buildings are being built and are competing for dominance in that skyline. And I think those two views, as I look out of the window, seem to represent quite different ages and economic situations that we've moved out into. But really, when I look out, if the day's clear enough, and I look even beyond Manchester, that there's something else that I can just about pick out on the horizon, and that's the towers of the Fiddler's Ferry power station, which is on the banks of the River Mersey, near Runcorn. At the moment, it's being decommissioned. It was a coal-fired power station, and it's been taken out of use, and I don't suppose it's going to be there for much longer. But really, as I sit here and I look, even beyond that, if the day is really clear enough, I can see something else. I can see reaching out above the horizon, the blue peaks of Snowdonia, the Snowdonia National Park, and Mount Snowdon in the midst of them. And sometimes I look at that, and that just seems so inviting. It seems to draw you there. Of course, we're not allowed to go at the moment with the restrictions, but I look forward to being able to get in the car and drive down there. But there's something else as I sit here, and particularly this last week with the weather we've had. But as I sit and look, I can see how the weather's changing. I can see when the rain's coming in, or indeed some of the thunderstorms that we've had this last week. And I know that if those tower blocks in Manchester disappear from view in the haze, that the rain's coming. And if I've got washing on the line, I know that I've got to act pretty quickly, otherwise Lynn will be saying to me, I thought I asked you to keep an eye on the washing and bring it in if it rains. So I can watch too and see how the weather changes from here. And I was thinking, as we look back into the Bible, those people that they call prophets in the Old Testament, God's messengers, they too were looking at perhaps into the future. But they too had an urgent call, and it was to call people back to God. They too were describing what they saw before them. They warn of imminent dangers, of things that are going to befall the people, stark events if they don't quickly turn back to God. But always through the message too, there's something more, something perhaps beyond those immediate events. And that's always a message of God's faithfulness, of a prevailing hope, of God's mercy, that there will come a time of restoration, a time when God will call them back to himself. And in the message too, perhaps like I'm looking at that far distant horizon that I can't always see, there's something else that they tell of that for them is in the far distant future. And it's a promise that God will send his Messiah. He will send a Saviour to rescue his people. Although we meet John the Baptist actually in the New Testament part of our Bibles, I think he's really the last of the line of those Old Testament prophets. People like Elijah that have brought God's message to the people. But where they're sat looking into the distant future to see the fulfillment of God's promises, John's message is far more urgent. He's saying that the time is here. The Messiah is here. This promised time has come. Be ready. Be prepared. Be ready to meet him when he appears. And of course, we read the story, and one day as John's baptizing people in the River Jordan, out of the crowd steps the figure of Jesus. And God's Spirit descends and rests on Jesus in the form of a dove. And John hears a voice from heaven which says, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." And John then recognizes who this is that has finally come, who Jesus really is. He then sends his disciples, his own disciples, John, to follow Jesus because he is the one that was to come. But John, of course, is this outspoken prophet of God. And in due course, he gets the wrong side of King Herod. He upsets Herod's wife, and John's thrown into prison. And there it seems that, as we read the story, John begins to have his doubts. Not least because Jesus' ministry was so much different from his own. John's lifestyle was so austere. And Jesus is going out and is mixing with all sorts of people. Just let me read you the account. When John heard in prison what Christ was doing, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who was to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, the deaf hear, and the dead are raised, and the good news is preached to the poor. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me." As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the desert to see? A reed swayed in the wind? If not, what did you go to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in king's palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, and I tell you, more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. I tell you the truth, among those born of women, there is not raised anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful men lay hold of it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. If you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. He who has ears, let him hear." Jesus sends word back, doesn't he, to John, for his disciples, the messengers that had come. Just go back and tell John what you see happening and what you see that I'm doing. Some time ago, I found myself asking, God, are you really there? Are you still there? This was even before the coronavirus hit us and all the disruption that brought. But things just at that time perhaps didn't seem to be working out. Things didn't seem to be happening. And I think perhaps even worship had become something of a habit rather than something exciting and something to be enjoyed. And I was beginning to question, I suppose, perhaps we all do at times, whether the things that I was involved in doing were really making any difference, whether there was any real purpose to it. So I asked the question, God, are you really still there? I don't know what sort of answer I was expecting, but a reply came back almost instantly. And it was a still, quiet, small voice, just speaking into my mind. And it said, you remember a couple of years ago when your life faced real crisis? And yeah, I knew exactly what that was. That was a time when Len, my wife, was very ill, and indeed we were questioning and wondering just how long we would have still together. Well, okay, continued that voice. I was with you through that time. I walked you through it, didn't I? And I brought you through it at the other end. Let that be sufficient answer for you. Since then, all our lives have been completely changed and disrupted. And perhaps many of us are struggling. We're struggling to know where God is in it all. We're struggling to know perhaps if God is there. Perhaps many people are questioning, is God there? But you see, like the scene from my window when I look out, I guess it really does depend where you let your eye focus. Although when I look out, there are lots of things that crowd in on my view and seem to dominate the scene before me. Beyond them, there is something even greater, something that, to me, that speaks of God's peace and God's beauty. Even though I can't always see it, sometimes it's obscured from view. But I know nonetheless that it's still there. I'd like to pray with you, if I may, just before we finish. And I just want to, perhaps if you're in that place where you are struggling to know where God is, perhaps just to pray for you. I just pray, Lord, that each one of us now, wherever we're meeting, wherever we're joining into this meeting, that you be with each one of us there. Sometimes, Lord, it seems that the storms and the events of life obscure you from view. But you're still there, Lord. You're still faithful. You don't change. You still have purpose for our lives. And you still care for us. So, Lord, I want to pray for each one of us that are part of this gathering this morning, this scattered gathering, that you just be close to each one of us and draw us close to you. Because we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Great is your faithfulness, O God my Father. You have fulfilled all your promise to me. You never fail and your love is unchanging. All you have been, you forever will be. Great is your faithfulness, great is your faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, your hand has provided. Great is your faithfulness, Father, to me. Summer and winter, springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in eloquent witness to your great faithfulness, mercy, have needed, your hand has provided. Great is your faithfulness, Father, to me. Pardon for sin and a peace everlasting, your living presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. These are the blessings your love will provide. Great is your faithfulness, great is your faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, your hand has provided. Great is your faithfulness, great is your faithfulness, great is your faithfulness, Father, to me.